Welcome back, Rev fam. It would help us out greatly if you would like and subscribe to our channel, as the algorithm greatly likes this and we appreciate it as well. Thanks, guys.
What's up, everybody? This is our first of our new Rev Talks interview series. You may notice me and Michelle are in different locations, but I promise we still live together. It's just one bedroom, one living room.
We're still roommates.
Still roommates. She kind of still deals with me. So, a lot of you already know her. And for those who don't, you're in for a treat. She actually is pretty exciting and pretty cool and has a lot of different facets of her life. I'm going to let her explain herself because she probably knows herself just a little better than I know me. So give it a shot, Michelle.
I always feel like other people can describe me better than I can describe myself. I'm not good at talking about myself. Okay. So I'm Michelle. I'm one of the owners of Revolutionize Nutrition. I'm an IFBB Figure athlete, although I haven't competed in 2 years as of now. The stage will always be there. It's always ready for me when I choose to return. Yeah, that's me. Yeah. I also do not only nutritional counseling and coaching, but I have my degree in health and exercise science, specialization in athletic nutrition. So the whole world of exercise, physiology, health, wellness, nutrition, that's my realm. And yeah.
All right, that's pretty cool. But that's who you are now. Who were you growing up? How did you get here? Tell us about.
Does anybody else feel like you have like these different phases and chapters of your life, and when you reflect on it, you look like you're looking in on a movie of somebody else's life, but you're like, oh, that was me.
It's now you're getting into one of my favorite concepts.
I know.
The philosophy of consciousness and identity.
Exactly.
We can go there. We can go there later.
And you mentioned identity. I just want to let you know, like, I don't identify as this. Like, I'm Michelle. I do a whole lot of different things. Just because I bodybuild and just because I'm an owner of a business doesn't mean that that is all who I am. Back before this, I played volleyball as a very competitive volleyball athlete. I played internationally in Australia, which was pretty cool. But growing up, I was a very competitive dancer. So I traveled, I competed, and in college, when I was dancing in college, I actually tore my groin. So that injury before performance is actually what got me into the gym and into bodybuilding, because I was like, well, I can't be physically active 6 hours a day doing like vigorous dance every day. So I started working out, a little bit here and there. I always loved being strong, love being strong. I like being stronger than the guys. I took pride in that. During the fitness tests back in high school and middle school, and they would tell you how many push-ups, how many pull-ups can you do. I always beat the guys.
So Michelle is the school presidential champion, like 10 years running.
Yes, I got the principal's award. I focused on getting good grades, but like I like being a well-rounded person. I don't know. I always threw myself into everything with 100%. I always loved a challenge. I always loved learning. And I always knew that I am not the best. There's always more to learn. There's always more to do. There's always more improvement. And I think that's very important for anybody to remember if you want to go far in anything in your life, is to stay humble and know that there's always more work to be done in any aspect of your life, whether it's fitness, school and education, your career, and so forth.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point you made. And I think a lot of people who aren't humble or humble enough, and that doesn't mean don't be confident, those are two separate things,
Yes.
aren't humble enough, haven't made sure themselves have been around the best in their fields. It's very easy to be a big fish in a small pond, in bodybuilding terms, beat up on your local shows, find the smallest shows, scope out who's going to what show, and see if the toughest athletes aren't there. That doesn't, that's not what it's all about, and that's not how you develop and grow.
Yeah, and I would say that's a pet peeve of mine, not only as an athlete, but as a coach also, is when somebody does really well or success comes to them very easily at a small amateur local level, whatever it may be. Like you said, big fish in a little pond. You put all the big fish out together on the same stage together, it's extremely humbling. And if you don't have a good mindset on that, it's like it's poisonous. It really is. And I've seen a lot of people crumble under that when things come so easily to them at one level. And then when it's time to level up, they're like, well, you know, this and fuck these guys and this and that. And that's not the way you can be in this sport. This is not how you could be in any area of your life.
Right. And I think another good point of that is once you stop being accountable for your results and blame it on everything external, that's never a good thing at all.
It's no one else's fault.
Yeah. And, you know, just like in business, I think it applies as well. If you're not getting to the point where you're failing in business, you're not trying to grow yourself and your skill set enough to. So I think it goes in a lot of different directions.
Growing can be very scary and it's extremely uncomfortable for a lot of people. And that discomfort is what deviates them away from excelling to that next level. And it's important to remember that concept, you know, always keep growing, always keep learning and moving forward and striving to be better than what you once were. And if somebody else is better than you, don't take that as, you can't be intimidated by it. You need to aspire towards it, you know, say, okay, that's what's needed for me to level up. What do I need to do to get there? And then beyond that.
And that's it, you know, eventually everybody's time comes and passes, you know, there's always going to be a next best. There's always going to be an up and comer.
Oh, wait. There always is.
Yeah. So what was it about, you know, bodybuilding and competing in general that made you want to get on that stage? Were there any specific, you know, role models or people you looked at and go, wow, look at her, look at him. That's what I want to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember like, God, it was probably like 13 years ago or something like that. And there was this, you know, growing up in my generation, everything was, you know, all the mainstream media would be skinny, 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 tiny, tiny, tiny. And that was never me. And I remember seeing this beautiful, like fit chick, right? And she was a WBFF model. And they showed a picture of like a Victoria's Secret angel next to this chick with these like big badass, you know, black wings and whatnot.
Yes.
She was jacked and she was stunning. And I was like, that is what I want. Like, I want to attain that. Like, I love being strong. I love muscle. Like, why am I trying to go against A, my genetics, B, against what I like to do, be strong, in order to attain a physique that is more widely accepted by mainstream media, and being somebody that I don't want to be. It's just for the validation and the approval of fitting a certain physique mold, right? So I was like, I want to embrace this. And at the time, I was dating somebody that was not about this at all. Like, he would just say, go on the cardio equipment. Don't lift weights, don't be strong. And like, I was like, I gotta get out of this. That was just, I mean, one component of it all. But you know, after I had broken up with him after an 8-year relationship, I was finally in this position where I wanted to take control and do all the things that I wanted to do and be strong, really. And at that time, you know, fast forward a couple of years later, Nicole Wilkins was an IFBB professional figure athlete and stunning. I mean, she was definitely my role model in what I wanted to attain, you know, physique wise. And I did, you know, and I said, you know, I spent years on the stage competing as a dancer. And I said, you know, I could get back on the stage in a different, you know, a different element and bodybuild. Like, let's go. So I did my first show, as you know, and, you know, threw the suit on, threw the tan, the heels, the makeup, the hair, the whole bit, got back on stage for my first time in years, because prior was dance and now was bodybuilding. Won my first show with you, Randman. And
I just want to interject just a second. I hope I don't throw you off.
That's cool.
I want to remind people how much it was a very fun day, because we look back on it, we were two kids who had no friggin' clue what we were doing, even though we did, you know, in technical terms, we did. But in reality, we were two just kids, just clueless, walking around. And there was this really fun moment backstage. I don't know that everyone knows this story, but Michelle's sitting in her robe and I'm sitting there. No one knows who we are. We're brand new idiots there, you know. And they're like, oh, good for you. You're her boyfriend. You're competing. That's so cute. And she takes her robe off and all of a sudden the room goes silent. Like, oh, it was a very different energy after that.
And we swept the competition.
So that was
Not
a fun.
going to happen to every athlete out
No,
there. Okay.
and again, we picked, it was a lucky break. There were no, girls about to go pro there that day.
Yeah. Yep.
What's
So we did that. Fast forward, that was 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 15, 16. So 5 seasons in is when I earned my IFBB Pro card, the International Federation of Bodybuilding. That's what IFBB stands for, if you aren't familiar with that. Earned my pro card, officially became a professional athlete. And it was just year after year after year, pushing, but also loving the process. And I think that's something that athletes need to understand, especially new athletes. You are choosing to enter this sport. You need to enjoy all aspects of the sport. And I think people get so swept in on the final product and the glitz and glam, and they have this image in their head of what they want to be at like the pro level, and not understanding that every single day there is consistent effort put into the process. And you're not going to wake up motivated. You just got to wake up and do the work,
Okay. And this is all year round, not the 4 months leading up to the show.
All year round. The improvement season's the most important component of it all. One of the most important components of it all. It is a big picture sport, and you need to be in it for the long haul, for the long game, because I promise the final image you have of yourself of where you want to be may take you a decade to get there.
Yeah.
It may.
And it's more common that it will than it won't, to be really honest with you.
Yeah.
But I think let's get into the fun, meaty stuff I think people wanted to hear about. What did your prep look like for Universe when you went pro? What macros, cardio, weight training, recovery, whatever supplements, you let us know.
So you need to know when I prepped for Universe, my third attempt, the attempt that I went pro at, again, I did 2 times before that. That was 5 seasons in. So 5 off seasons of muscular growth went into that process for the figure division. With that being said, the off season, the developmental season that I took prior to Universe in 2016 was tremendous. You recall, for my frame, I peaked over 170 pounds. That's a lot of weight for me. I ate like a monster. I trained like a monster. My strength was dumb. Like I haven't been that strong since 2016, 2017, 2018. Like that is when I peaked. It was wild. And so I packed on a lot of weight, bracing myself for the amount of body fat that I was going to have to drop during the in season, right? So once I started dieting down, we went hard from the get-go. The cardio, I picked that right up. My body responds very well to sprints. So I did a lot of outdoor sprints, even treadmill sprints, and I applied the same methodology to the elliptical and the stair climber. Yes, I was that person sprinting up the stair climber in intervals.
Making quite a lot of noises.
I mean, towards the end, like my boobs disappear. Like TMI, I go from size D's to nothing but like pecs and skin when I'm ready to get to peak. And I would just roll out of bed every morning, go right to my cardio in my pajamas. Like there was no bra even on me. So the cardio was vigorous. The macros, I always did well on a lower fat macro ratio. While still attaining carbs, but a lot of my carbs came from my vegetables because I am a volume eater. So I like to eat large quantities of food. So again, carbohydrates coming from a lot of broccoli, rice, cauliflower, even big salads, cucumbers. So I could just keep shoveling it in.
If I remember correctly, I think you caused a packaged coleslaw shortage that year.
I was hooked on shredded coleslaw mix. I didn't mix it with mayo, but that shredded coleslaw mix, I would mix my ground chicken, my spicy brown mustard, my seasonings, my hot sauce. Like it was to anybody else, they'd probably be like, what the fuck? But to me, I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Never got sick of it. I could go make that right now and be super satisfied.
Yeah, maybe for the YouTube, we'll edit in a picture of one of these plates for you guys.
I gotta find it. My squiggle chicken. So I would take ground chicken, but I wouldn't even separate it. I would just throw it on a pan in a brick square and then chop it into 4 quarters.
Yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy and I feel like I'm loving you.
quarters. But I wouldn't break it up. So when you would go to eat this burger patty, it was still just like squiggly chicken. Doesn't taste the same. I'm fine with it.
It did. I've tried it. It does.
It's fine. And then supplementation wise is when I started working. I really wasn't big on supplements. I started working with Apollo Nutrition out of Edison, New Jersey. I love them. I'm still their athlete. In 2017, they asked me to come on board officially as one of their athletes. Love, love, love them. And I was big on their, well, I'm very stimulant sensitive, caffeine sensitive. So I would do like a half a scoop of their Hooligan pre-workout with a half a scoop of their Hooligan bare knuckle non-stim pre-workout. What else? Enigma, their intra workout to help with recovery. Love the Enigma. These are all supplements that I still use to this day. I've never deviated from it because it is the best. They are the best supplements. And that was it. Very simple. Again, there's a lot of things that I cannot put in my body and I do not want to put in my body, just for personal reasons.
All right. And then, you know, what did you do anything cheat meal refeed wise, or you just kept it pretty static?
I had my cheat meals, but my cheat meals, they were very controlled. A couple seasons in, we started doing refeeds instead of cheat meals, just for a little bit more control over the diet. And then when I get close to the show time, I pulled them. I would just, once I was on a roll, like I wasn't even tempted by cheat meals or refeed meals, which seems strange for a lot of people because people are like, oh, I can't wait to have this burger. Like I was good. So I can vouch.
You're not lying. She's a very easy prepper. She's not cranky to be around. She wants it. So it's no one's holding a gun to her head. She just does it. And she's not obsessive either. It's just her job. She goes to work.
It's just like, I don't know. I just wake up and do it. I don't sit and think about it all day. I'm not sitting on my fitness pal all day. Like it's just so easy to me. And if you are cranky, if you're an asshole, if you are projecting any of your insecurities, your crankiness, whatever it may be on other people, like honestly, don't do this shit. Because you're going to hurt relationships, and to hurt a relationship, friendship, whatever it may be, it's not worth a plastic trophy. You have to be doing this for yourself, and you have to say, I chose to do this. I want to do this. It's for personal reasons, you know, whatever it may be, but it's never an excuse to be an asshole to other people. Bottom line.
No, and that's a really great way to say, because, you know, there's a lot of people with great physiques, but they're not even close to as good of people. We can count on our hands the number of truly good people we've met in this world, and that's not a great feeling.
Yeah, like people say, you know, just going to the gym itself or bodybuilding, it's a selfish sport. Honestly, it's not. If you have good time management skills and you're not at your core an asshole, you can make time for yourself and everybody in your life.
Everybody's got excuses, right? Time management, multitasking, work, cardio, sweaty mess.
But yeah. I guess that's a personality thing and a time management thing. I don't know. Or a stress management thing, how you manage your stress and your responsibilities.
And I think on that note too, before I get into the next topic, I think it's also not the right thing for everybody at the right point in their life. You know, if you have 4 newborns, it may not be the time for you right now.
Timing is everything. And there's a reason why, you know, I took a break between 2018 and 2021 when I got back on stage. There was a reason why I didn't compete last year. You know, timing is everything, and not every year is right to compete. And that's okay. The stage is always there and it's ready for you when you're ready to come back.
Yeah. So I guess turning to the next part of this, a little bit different because you're so positive. Outside of, because we're going to get to the PEDs and the steroids, what else would you say the kind of, you know, dark side of the sport?
Yeah. I try to warn people because a lot of people coming into the sport are very, I don't want to use the word naive or like ignorant, like they just don't know, they're not exposed. So right. When you come to the sport, you know, you see people and you're like, oh my God, they must have attained that body just by drinking protein powder, or they must have gone pro and they're natural. And I hate to break it to you, but a lot of these people they're not natural. And what is their definition of natural? You know, there's different types of performance enhancing drugs. There's different types of anabolic steroids. There's different types of everything. So there's not just like, oh, this person's on drugs and this drug is classifying everything out there, right? Yeah. So not just the PEDs side of the sport and people abusing it, because if you have an obsessive personality, an addictive personality, something I don't have, I don't have that in me. If you have deep seated insecurities, again, something I don't have, because I guess my strength is I don't really give a shit. If you have these things, they can be extremely exacerbated by this industry. This industry does attract people with histories of eating disorders. It attracts people with body dysmorphia. It attracts people with any addiction history. And you can channel those things into something beautiful and positive and wonderful and healthy, or what you're striving to be is never enough, and you keep pushing and you pushing and compounding all of these different drugs, copious amounts of these drugs, things that your body can't handle. Again, there are ways of doing things. I'm not going to say, because I'm not anti-drug, but I am pro-education and understanding that time is a factor in the sport that nobody wants to pay attention to, because no one is patient. You must be patient. If you are impatient, if you have an addictive personality and you're choosing to do extremely unhealthy things, you are going to pay the consequences. And I hope it's not death. I'm not going to be doom and gloom, but there have been many people in this industry who have died because they pushed their bodies too hard in the drug category.
To interject, and many more, that, death isn't the only side effect, that lost limbs, organ failure, go down the list of awful side effects. And, it was always a part of bodybuilding, but it seems to have gotten worse the last 15 years.
Especially if they're combining it with recreational drugs, which also happens in this industry, is you get some crazy people that are taking a bunch of anabolic steroids and then they're doing lines of cocaine on the side. It exists. Saying this is everybody, but it does.
Yeah, not the ideal pre-workout.
No, not the ideal pre-workout. So, there's that. And then there's also the dark side of the sport regarding body dysmorphia and eating disorders and the obsessive personalities there. This industry, you are going on stage, you are being judged based on the opinions of judges in front of thousands of people.
Something I want to let all the competitors know out there, and this is, what I live by too. The sport of bodybuilding is based off the opinions of judges, and you're going to have one judge that's going to love your look and another judge that's going to hate it.
Your story might even be on social media, whatever it may be. If you can't handle criticism, if you are going to sit there and dissect all the other athletes around you and put other people down to make yourself feel good, these are all extremely toxic behaviors. Yeah, they're extremely toxic. They are not invited in this sport. We don't want that here. The only thing you can do is focus on yourself and stop worrying about everybody else. It's dangerous, especially if you are looking in the mirror and seeing a physique that doesn't exist.
And I think that's an important thing. I like to tell people who get into this sport, it's a very unique sport in a sense. It's not like wrestling or football or hockey or basketball where you can sometimes out-heart or out-hustle your opponent. You can do that in the gym before the show, but the day of the show, it's almost like you're playing golf. We're on the golf course and everyone's against the course. And, in our sport, we're against the judge.
And you nailed it. You nailed it. And also, people have to remember, you can bodybuild without competing. You know what I mean? You can get your body to extremes. You can do the photo shoots that we do at Rev and whatnot, and not necessarily put yourself on stage and get judged, right? So I think people forget that you could still live the lifestyle without the criticism.
Yeah, and it's tough. And have you seen anything in the sense of people preying on these insecurities and preying on these vulnerable athletes in terms of whether it's favors for X, Y, or Z, or in terms of pushing things on them they didn't want to do drug-wise, let's say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if a coach sees a good prospect, I haven't seen it much lately, but they'd poach an easy client. They know that the client wants to go pro, and they said, okay, well, in order to go pro, you're going to have to take X, Y, and Z. Sometimes not even seeing if they have any pre-existing conditions. The athlete might not even know if they have pre-existing conditions. But the way people prey on vulnerability in this industry is crazy, which is why you have to have thick skin. You have to have a very good sense of self-worth and self-confidence. Like, you must.
Yeah, it's a prerequisite. You know, I'll move on to the next thing in a sec, but we always say in the office, you know, if you don't love yourself regardless, and before you even step on that prep into our office, in our prep room, or anyone else, nothing you do is going to change that. You know,
That's if I placed first place in a show one week and last place in a show the following week, I still feel the same way about myself. I'm still proud of myself that I got there and that I'm better than I was. You can't control the competition that's going to come on the stage next to you either. So again, whether I'm scooping an overall at a show or placing dead last, I'm good.
right? You know, and it's important. I know I keep saying next thing. You know, your self-value and self-worth should be on a compendium of things, a cornucopia of things. And if it's all in that one basket, it's going to be a rough day and rough life.
Yeah, because that's usually not just in this one portion of life. It's usually reflects in other areas as well.
Yeah, so I guess to get back to some, I don't know if it's positive, but at least just different. Can you explain to some people who may not understand the difference of level and difficulty of competition, moving from local or regional level NPC to national pro qualifier NPC to pro level to Olympia level?
Game changer. Listen, guys, my first year, 2013, I win the overall at my first show. Win it. Go. I'm gonna go pro next year.
You literally said that to people.
Guess what didn't happen? I didn't go pro the next year. Again, exposure, learning, understanding, right? Randy and I didn't really have people to bounce ideas off of. It was just us, right? So the level from the amateur level, even to an amateur level show of 80 people versus an amateur level show of 300 people, right? Just more competition. Then you level up to nationals. You are now taking the winners of every competition across the world and putting them on one stage together.
I'm sorry. It is across the world. That's not exaggeration. You have people flying in from Japan, from China, from South America, Brazil, United Kingdom. Come here.
Like, y'all are so stuck in this bubble and confined to what you know right in your local area. You're not exposed to anything else. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, right? So when you get there, the level of competition is a tremendous increase, which is why when I went pro, I had to have a pro ready physique. My body needed to skip nationals and it needed to look like a pro already, which is a significant amount of muscle increase. It's being significantly more conditioned. It's having a better presentation on stage. Then to go from winning your pro card to pro level athlete, again, not only are you dealing with this step up in athleticism and physiques and whatnot, but you're also dealing with the evolution of the bodybuilding industry, because every year, if you look at the Miss Olympia, Nicole Wilkins, Miss Olympia 2013, 2014, and you compare that to Miss Olympia now, the physiques, they're not even comparable. Like they don't look anything alike. Like Miss Figure Olympia now exceeds what physique used to be back then, which is a level up in muscularity. Yeah. So the bodies have evolved so it's hard to keep up.
Almost like comparing, 1920s all white NBA versus now a global NBA. It's not the same group.
You can't compare the two. Again, if I could put up a picture, a side by side, so you can see how distinct the difference is. This is just the evolution. Yeah, this is just the evolution of what the pro level figure athlete is from 10 years ago to now. And so you have to understand, like, you are always fighting that battle to be better and to level up the physique. And you have to understand that Miss Olympia is not natural.
No.
I'm just gonna put that out there.
I think a lot of people don't understand that most pros who go pro never even sniff the top 10 in a pro show, much less compete a second time. And then out of the group that does, 2% of that, 5% of that may see that Olympia stage. And again, then it gets cut down again. Only a piece of that will ever see the medal rounds.
Yeah. You know, I won the amateur show, went to nationals, got dead last my first time around. Back to back, week to week. I won the overall to show at amateur level and then got almost dead last at nationals the following week. Then when I went pro, won pro at nationals, and then did the New York Pro and the Dallas Pro, and again was in the bottom call out. So every time you level up, you take that next level, you're at the bottom rung again, and you got to work your way back up.
Yeah, so I think that's very enlightening for people that, you know, don't know, and maybe even some people who are fans, but maybe don't know from that insider's point of view. So I got to more back a local level question. You know, so you're also a coach as well as an athlete. I'm going to ask this, you know, two separate ways, almost two different questions. You know, we're going to talk about coaching athletes versus prepping yourself. First off, I'm going to go, which do you find easier to do? And second, what are the differences, the big challenges between the two?
Prepping myself is easier.
And why would you say that?
I mean, physically, it's easier to tell somebody else to go do something.
No, that's, yeah.
But to trust that they're going to actually do that and not lie to my face is a different story. Like, I see them next week. Well, how'd your cardio go this week? And they're like, oh, it's fine. Fast forward to 2 months after their show, and they're like, hey, you know, I told you I was doing that cardio the whole time. I wasn't. Right? So that's kind of a pain in the ass. But I trust myself. I know myself. I know what I'm going to put into it. You know, it is a you versus you, just like it's a me versus me. And I can control all the controllables in that situation. I can't control what my client is going to tell me they are or aren't doing. I just have to trust that they're going to do it. So there is that.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, anybody who likes to be in control when you're out of those variables are out of your hands, and there's only so many in your hands anyway.
The other thing is, so like my definition of a certain type of intensity is different from another person's definition of a certain type of intensity. So when I tell somebody, like, you on this sprint, you go balls to the wall, it's literally everything you got. When I do that sprint, it's everything I got. I am hyperventilating. I'm fucking dying at the end of that. Somebody else's definition of balls to the wall, given everything you got, is my version of like a run. I don't know. So I have to hope that people are going to put the same amount of intensity and passion and drive into everything that they're doing. And sometimes it's just not that.
Yeah, and I've seen it. I've been with Michele at the gym where the first set of squats she has a day, her first set of the first exercise, she's already almost throwing up. And that's the start of the workout.
Yep. And that goes for me. And yeah, never mind. I was going to deviate, but I have really bad.
No, deviate. This is a free form. We want free speech here.
So the free speech is, you know, people ask, you know, what if I take X, Y, and Z drugs? And I'm like, well, if you take X, Y, and Z drugs, that doesn't mean that it's going to do you any favors and you can just sit on the couch and do half the intensity. X, Y, and Z drugs. Yeah. X, Y, and Z drugs is going to allow you to go even harder and recover faster. So yes. Do people say, oh, well, it's not fair, they're taking PEDs? Like, dude, people could do whatever they want to do, but you have to understand that those people are still working 2, 3, 4, 5, 20 times harder than you may be. So it's not a crutch or anything like that either. Because again, sometimes I could come off as like, and I'm not anti-drug, sometimes I could come off that way. I am also paying mad respect to the people who do take X, Y, and Z, because I know how effing hard that they're working. So for anybody who's like novice out there, who doesn't have as much exposure to the industry, you need to understand that these people are literally putting their whole life into what they do, into their performance.
The ones who look the part, because there also is a lot of people who take PEDs and look like the guy who sits on the couch.
Because he is.
And that's my point. So they're not this magic, you know, rub the genie and you turn into a pro bodybuilder either.
Not how it works.
Yeah, like I'm deviating a little bit. Like, you go back to Barry Bonds, who, like, you know, PEDs made him who he is. I go, to a point, his home runs might have went 5 feet longer, but he doesn't see that. Plus the genetics, but he doesn't see that ball and hit that ball any better because of steroids. The bat speed, the reaction, the discipline to, you know, do the work, that doesn't come from anything else but hard work.
The work at the
genetics.
training, It's everything.
Well, I'm glad you said genetics, because I didn't even have that written on my notes because I am incompetent. So let's talk a little bit about that. How much should genetics matter in the sport? You know, I'm going to say what I want to say, but I want to hear you.
Genetics matter. Bottom line, they matter. What you have naturally, the shape of your body, the shape of your muscle bellies. Do you have long muscle attachments? Do you have short muscle attachments? Are you a hard gainer? Meaning, is it hard for you to gain muscle? Are you a thicker type who gains muscle easily, but it's hard for you to lean out? This all matters and affects your prep as well as the division that you're in. Where you can fight your genetics to a certain extent is with different anabolics and PEDs. They do allow your body to do some bits of shape shifting, but the base is the base, right?
Yeah.
So,
Because
like, my body naturally always favored a figure type physique, where I would be a terrible match in bikini. However, the way the sport's evolved, I might fit into bikini now more than I would figure, because I'm not willing to take the PEDs that are required. However, if you were to take my physique, throw the performance enhancing drugs into the mix, I'd be a behemoth.
Yes. And I think people misunderstand when we say genetics. You know, genetics without hard work, yes, you'll beat it with subpar genetics and incredible work ethic.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I think there's a Phil Heath quote. He goes, you know, it's the old Jared Jeter quote of hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Phil Heath goes, I'm talented and I'm the hardest worker in the room. You're not going to beat me.
If you take genetics, hard work, and proper program designing, proper nutrition designing, and the PEDs, and you put that all together, you're fucking unstoppable. Like, you cannot be matched. It's the perfect storm, and not everybody has that. You could be the hardest worker in the room, but the guy next to you who worked hard, but also has the genetics to back it up, might beat you.
Yeah. And
that happens. We've seen that happen where we've people who have worked their asses off, but their genetics just don't work in their favor. It just is what it is.
Well, yeah,
I hate to say that. I hate to say that because I want to be like, anything's possible.
Yeah, it's tough to hear, but I like to say, like, you know, I could have had the world's greatest basketball coaches, greatest schoolers, gone to basketball school for 20 years. I wasn't going to be LeBron or Michael Jordan. I'm a 5'9" white guy who's pretty good at wrestling and combat sports, but not a true athlete in that sense.
Right.
And
so that's a perfect example. It's a perfect example.
Yeah. So it is what it is. You have to find what you're good at and nurture it.
Right. Exactly. And there's always improvements that can be made. So yeah, maybe genetically you don't have the best delts, but it doesn't mean that you can't hammer them and work on them, and make them better. Yeah.
So don't be discouraged, but it's just,
don't ever be discouraged. Don't ever be discouraged. Understand where you are, where you want to be, and the work that it's going to take for you to get there, and the time to put that work in that it's going to take to get there. It might not happen in a year, might not happen in 5 years. So, but it can happen.
And sometimes too, before I go to the next topic, a lot of people think they have bad genetics, but just because they haven't nurtured it yet. You don't know you have good genetics. You haven't pushed yourself to that point either.
If I never got into this sport, I wouldn't know what I was capable of. Are you kidding me? Do you think I looked the way, if you look at my stage shot, I didn't come out of the womb like that. I didn't look like that 11 years ago. I didn't look like that 9 years ago, 8 years ago, 7, 6, 5, right? I looked like that year. So I had to put the work in to attain that physique for that year. Again, I'll see if I can clip in a picture of what I looked like before I got into the sport. And I can tell you right now, didn't look the same.
No, we'll definitely try to clip in the pre-working out, mid-Atlantic, pros, and put the whole
time on for sure.
So let's get into some other things, because like I said, you are more than a bodybuilder. You own and run a business, which is pretty cool. How is that? Balancing all those other responsibilities, but just your regular workout schedule. Forget competing. What's that like?
Sometimes it's cool running a business. Sometimes you sit back and say, I wish I just had a regular 9 to 5. There are responsibilities that are involved running a business that most people don't fathom. They can't even comprehend. Throw COVID into the mix when we had that, I was no one expected that
cool.
one. But there are sacrifices and very risky moves that we have to take as business owners in order to survive and in order to thrive. There are sacrifices, not just financially, but like personally, that have to be made in order to take care of your employees and your clients. Squeezing my workouts in, luckily my schedule's not flexible, but I am flexible. So like I'll maneuver my workouts around my other stuff. Preferably, I like to get my workouts done first thing in the morning, just because I know if I wait a little bit too long, my phone will be blowing up with issues that I have to take care of. So I want to beat that. And for me to work out at night is hopeless.
and this is true.
So that's kind of how I do it. I use Clean Bro for my meals, and I meal prep during my downtime when I can.
These are all facts. I see this stuff. I see the sacrifices she makes. I joke and call myself Last Resort Randy, but that's a joke.
Listen, sometimes you got to prioritize yourself. If you're 100%, you can give 100%. Rumi.
Yeah. But I'm very supportive though, so it's a good match.
Yeah, it works out. It's always good when your spouse is supportive. 100%, your family, your friends, like it does make things a little bit better.
And they are. It was fun. Okay, next topic is we're talking about fun bodybuilding stories next. But I remember during your first prep, your mom looking at you a couple weeks after your show. What did she say? I mean, I remember, but I want to see if you remember.
What did she say? What did you do to my daughter? What did you do to my daughter?
And then what was her reaction about 3 weeks later post-show?
When I did the show and I got off stage, she goes, "What are you doing it again? That was awesome. When's the next show?"
But in full disclosure, still when we're at family dinners, her mom just talks about her childhood dance performances from like 10 years old.
My mom, at 36 years old, my mom still wants me to be in a costume on stage dancing. You really want that at age 36, Mom? It might be a different kind of dancing.
That's
my skin costume.
Revolutionize after dark.
After dark.
So I guess on that note, do you have any good fun bodybuilding stories? Whether it's backstage in the gym, let it loose.
Bob, I feel like you would remember them better than I would.
Well, I do, so I'll prompt you. Any good tanning experience, or someone who hasn't experienced what it's like to tan in a room of athletes?
Oh, yeah. So when I did a show down in Florida, and usually when you get tanned, you're in these pods. So you have like a tiny bit of privacy, but like when you get tanned, you are free balling, free crotching. Like you are ass naked and you're getting spray tan and then they're blow drying you and you're like, "Oh, hello, hey down there." And when we were in Florida, they didn't have these pods. So we were in a classroom in a high school in a circle. It was like 20 naked chicks.
Prison style.
Like this. Right? Just try to dry out, sticking your butt out because you don't want any lines in the butt, right? And you're just in a circle and you're just trying not to make eye contact with each other, and like you can't help it, and it's really awkward. And so that was hilarious. Sometimes the guys and girls they kind of get intertwined, but I think everybody's so like
in the zone
and exhausted and hungry and nervous that they're not even looking at each other. But we've seen some peens, and the guys have seen some vajayjays. It just happens backstage. Anything goes. If you have a history of like performing and theater and musical theater and dance, like backstage anything goes and nothing matters. Everybody's just so focused on themselves, they don't give a shit about anybody else. We've seen a girl's bikini top break on stage before.
Once.
She didn't come back for the night show. Once. We've seen a girl pass out on stage. Again, these aren't our people, by the way. We've seen a girl pass out on stage and come back and take first place. We've seen a girl's bikini bottom break backstage once.
But she handled that very well.
The bathrooms. handled it very well. She just walked around naked. She was like, "This is me, and I am beautiful." uh, we've seen, I mean, just so anybody knows, like bodybuilders are filthy backstage. Water is the enemy. So I feel like people take shit in the toilet and then they don't flush. So I've walked into plenty of bathrooms that are just piled up with toilet paper and crap. The toilet seats are covered in tanning solution. I mean, you're getting crop dusted by guys' protein farts all day. I mean, it's foul. It's dirty. It's nasty.
It's fun though. It's fun in its own little way.
But it's fun. Like, it's just silly and hilarious. And if those things don't appeal to you and you can't find comic relief in any of that, bro, go.
Yeah, it's unique, but it's fun. Everybody, for the most part, I think is pretty welcoming.
Oh my God, the community is so chill. I mean, again, like I said, people backstage are so zoned in because most of them are so nervous or they're trying to conserve energy anyway. But like, people are cool, man. I've met some really remarkable people being in this sport. Truly remarkable, with a mutual understanding. We all get the grind. We all understand what it all entails. And it's just, you know, I've made friendships with athletes I was competing against, right? Like, I'm on stage competing against them, and I have lifelong friendships with these people, despite where we placed, you know. And that's something truly beautiful that's come out of this. And again, you have to have that type of mentality. You know, the athletes that are on the stage with you, they all work their asses off. You didn't work harder than them. You guys all worked your asses off. You guys all sacrificed. You guys all have incredible, inspirational backstories. You're all in it together. And in the end, I always say, like, it's us against the judges. Like, it's based off of their opinions. If you know the sport, there's a lot in the sport that's pretty effing subjective, which can be extremely frustrating, as opposed to a powerlifting meet where a 300-pound bench press is going to beat 150. You know, based off the opinions of judges, you just show up and say, "This is me, judge me." And that's it.
And in my opinion, you know, I don't know, you know, I don't want to get into it, but usually it's no agendas, it's just mistakes.
Yeah.
But I guess so. I got three more questions for you. I'm going to lump the next two together. You know, so what would you say, you know, your biggest mistakes you might have made throughout your bodybuilding career are, / what would your advice for newcomers, first timers be?
I would say the biggest mistake for other people, because I've never done this mistake, because I know well enough, is looking, and this is which could go with the advice for newcomers, is sitting on social media and scoping out your competition. Don't fucking do it. You can look at pros and aspire to be that and, you know, use as motivation, but don't be scoping out your competition. Oh, this girl's doing the same show as me, she's in my category. Like, fuck that noise. Don't do that. You're going to drive yourself crazy. And now you're hyper focusing on one individual when you're going to be on stage with 30 other people.
Yeah.
This one individual might get last call outs and you're totally neglecting all of the other people you might be on stage with. Like, focus on you, be at your best at this point in time, control your controllables, and that's it. Stop looking at everybody else. And that goes for all other aspects of life too. Like, just do you. I've never done that. I don't think I have the attention span to stalk anybody out, but I've just put my efforts into myself. I have not put my efforts into scoping other people out and draining my energy like that. No. The biggest mistake I ever made.
Don't say marrying me. Don't say marrying me.
Did you just say what I think you just said? Sorry. The biggest mistake I ever did was, and always is, letting other people, letting their bad days affect me, I guess. Because I am the type of person that I'm going to try to drop. I'm going to drop everything to take care of somebody else. And I will put myself on the back burner and put all of my own goals to the side for that person and still get fucked over in the end. So I learned, you know, quite a few years back now, like, I stopped doing that. I mean, trust me, it's still a battle for me. I still have this internal struggle with myself, but I had to stop throwing myself to the side for other people, and not in a selfish way, but in a way to protect my boundaries, because I never had boundaries and I let everything infiltrate me. Right. So that's something that I worked hard on, and it immensely affected my prep. Like my 2015 prep, that whole year was like the worst fucking year of my life. If I could delete that year out of my life, I would. And it affected me. I mean, I looked like a bloated water balloon on that stage. It was awful. And a few years back, I was like, I'm done.
I think that's fantastic advice. I guess we'll finish with, tell us about writing your cookbooks, and then, where to find more Michele, and about Revolutionize maybe a little bit.
So the cookbooks are amazing. We have 3 cookbooks that our nutritionist Lauren helped tremendously with. She's like the VIP in that. And the cookbooks are outstanding. We have the Revolutionize cookbook, the original One Pot Wonders. Ooh, I broke that finger and I just hit it. One Pot Wonders, which is only using one cooking apparatus. So it's very easy to make and easy to clean up. It's like 1 sheet pan, 1 pot, 1 slow cooker. And then the third one is buildable. They're a little bit more intricate with layers of flavor, right? We sell them through our website, or the link is in our Linktree bios on our Instagram pages.
And in our YouTube as well. You'll see them
in our YouTube. We feature a lot of them in our YouTube, and you can incorporate them into your general nutrition. You can incorporate them even into your contest prep, because contest prep nutrition is usually a lot more fine-tuned than the general nutrition, right? But you can still make it work, and you're going to love the recipes. Definitely follow our YouTube for all the updates on recipes that are coming out. We're really putting a lot of effort into that content for you guys to keep your prep fun and exciting. And what does the future hold? Listen, when it comes to competing, because I'm asked this question all the time, never close the door. Never make it official. I'm never going to go on social media and say, I retired from bodybuilding. I couldn't have predicted I would be here 10 years ago, a year ago. So I can't predict where I'm going to be next year, in 6 weeks, in 6 months, or so forth. So the door is never closed. The stage is always there. And when I get on stage, you guys probably won't know until after I get off, because I also don't really like to share and I do it for me, and it takes that out of it, right? The struggle is that I am an athlete for Apollo Nutrition. I'm an athlete for Eat Clean Bro. I have to represent Revolutionize. So ideally, my prep content would be great for all of those businesses. However, I have to draw a line, and I have to take a step back from sharing certain content, because once I'm prepping for a show, I just like it to be me,
Yeah, so the content usually gets filmed, but shared post-contest.
Yeah, exactly. So again, doors not closed, never say never. I will get on stage again one day, but you guys will not know until after.
Thank you so much for spending the time with us. If you guys enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, comment, sharing it with your friends, family, or anyone else you think would benefit from this. Really, really helps us a lot, and we really appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for coming.
So much. Bye.